there. I want to have a discussion or a talk or a reflection on the mindset that we have when we're in the buyer's mode or buyer's mindset. The mindset we have, or we should have, I think, when we're in review mode, making a review, or what we expect from a reviewer of a piece of gear or a software, what should be its mindset, and in a way, the mindset of the developer making the software or the hardware that we're talking about. And that reflection, I don't know where it's going to end up. I came to this reflection and I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks now because I bought the Drumlogue from Korg and I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. I'm kind of surprised about it. I was expecting more videos about that piece of gear. It's not a bad piece of gear. It's not the best. Like most of the gear that we have, it's not the best. That's probably the word I want to talk the most about is the best. I'm kind of tired of hearing, oh, that's the best option. That's the best thing. That's the best sequencer. That's the best drum machine. Nothing is the best. It might be the best option for you today in that price range with this optic and vision and objectives. That's what I'm saying. The best means a lot of other information to say it's one of the best options. I know that when people ask me, what's the best thing to do this? My answer will be, it depends, because it's always a question of what do you want to do, If you check the other videos I made lately, I'm selling my TR-8S. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just I feel I need something else today, I don't think that as a reviewer, when you learn something and you talk about it, you should coin it the best or the worst. You should talk about the pros and the cons and try to better understand the buyer's mindset. And I'm saying that because I am in the buyer's mindset right now because I'm looking for new pieces of gear to complement my studio. I want to change some of the piece of gear I have. I want to explore other things. I want to change, And I'm going to make another video about my whole process of trying to figure out what piece of gear, without owning it, should I buy, Because it's hard to decide which one is the right thing unless you actually try it. And there's a lot of things that you find out there that it's hard to get access to and to play on it and to understand and to find that it's the right way to work. Of course, there's always the common grounds for anything we talk about when we talk about hardware and software for making music is the features. The numbers, how many inputs, how many outputs, how many voices, how many, the features. Is it a drum machine? Is it a sampler? Is it a synthesizer? Is it a software? Is it a hardware? Is it modulars? And there's a lot of just the list of features. And that's basically just the numbers, information, the specs, basically. But the specs does not tell you how it sounds. The specs does not tell you how the interface works, the navigation in the device. Basically, what I like to include inside the workflow. The workflow is basically everything linked to the UI because you can find what you need to find. Do you have to navigate a lot to get what you're looking for? Is it laid out the way you want to work? And some people will say, oh, Electron has the best sequencers on hardware, but there's a steep learning curve. Now, are you ready for that learning curve? And to be honest, steep learning curve doesn't mean that when you learn everything and make it work, you'll be happy with this workflow. What I mean by that is, if I go back on my personal experience, I have been making music with electronic equipment since the early 90s. I started with MIDI with something like Nu-Trix from Passport. The company does not exist anymore. And it was just a sequencer for MIDI. And there was no DAW at the time. DAW started to appear in the late 90s because computers started to be fast enough and powerful enough to run, recording, to be able to record into the computer. But I went to school to learn MIDI, synthesis, sampling, and all that stuff. And we had to learn, I think 4 different sequencers. And in the 4 different sequencers, there was Performer, which is now Digital Performer. And when the Performer, a lot of people came into Performer and said, I don't like it. I can't find where the information I'm looking for should be. I can't find the edit windows that should be linked to each of the windows. And there's so many windows that some people said, I hate it because I get lost in it. I went into Performer, and right away my brain went like, this is for me. This is exactly the way I think. This is exactly what I expect. And when I was looking for something, I could always find it where I thought it should be. So the brain of the people behind making it worked the same way as my brain worked from, expecting something out of a DAW. Whereas when I went into Cubase, it took me a longer time to understand how it worked and why something was somewhere. And when I was looking for a feature, it wasn't where I thought it should be. It doesn't mean it's bad. It means that the brain, the pattern, the logics behind it is decided by some people who have a certain vision, and they don't have the same philosophy of workflow that I expect, which is fine. Which means that I cannot say that Cubase is crap, because it's not. I just can say that it's not for me. It doesn't mean it's not for you. That's the thing. The one thing I hate the most online is people saying, this is trash. No. Unless it doesn't do what it's supposed to be doing, like it doesn't work, or it's really badly laid out, or it sounds like, But most time, it doesn't do what you expect the way you expect it to do it. So it doesn't mean it's bad. It means it doesn't fit your style, your workflow, your mental vision of what it should do and how it should work. And it's fine because they're not made the same way. And that's why I'm saying there's the buyer's mindset, trying to figure out if what I'm going to buy will work for me in the way I am and the way I interact with my tools. Sometimes it's hard to understand or imagine because there is a steep learning curve. When I went from Performer to Live, when the software Live came out, it took me about 2 days before understanding that it was not the same way as any other DAW before. I was looking, where can you add the tracks? Where can you add there was nothing for add tracks. You had to take the plugin and dropping it on the empty space, the track would create. It was like, oh, that took me like 2 days to when why is it so difficult for me? Because it was so different. It was going against everything I expected to see in a DAW. Live would not follow it. It would follow the DJ's approach. It was totally different. And that was, for me, a steep, not learning curve, but adaptation curve. But after it was done, I found it was easier to work than the other ones. So again, it's a question of the steep curve could mean that at the end you're happy with the new thing that you learned, or that you confirm that it's not for you. So it's possible. So it doesn't mean that it's more complex, it has more features, that it's the best. They will be your best option. So that's the thing, It goes to my third reflection, which is, what is the maker's mindset or the vision of the developer or the company behind the product, the tool that you want to use for your music? What's their mindset? Who are they targeting when they're making that device? Who are they trying to sell it to? What type of problem are they trying to solve? What type of doors do they try to open for you? So it's all the question that we should ask ourselves when we look at a piece of gear. Because when I looked at the Drumlogue, I was like, okay, it's a drum machine, but is it a groove box? It might be a little misleading, but it's not a groove box. I'll do another video just on that one. But it gives me that logic of understanding why would that piece of gear made? Who is it made for? And what is it exactly? And this, when you understand the mindset behind the making of that device, it becomes clearer to understand, will it fit with me? Because I can expect to use any type of device like a groove box, but if it's a drum machine and not a groove box, I will say it's not doing what I want. It doesn't mean it's bad, but it's a drum machine. If I expect it to be a groove box, well, I might be sadly surprised that it doesn't do what I expect it to do. So also my expectation should be limited inside the understanding what the target audience of that product is supposed to be. So understanding that, I think it's really primal to figure out if that piece of gear is for me. So I've been using this type of reflection because I'm not buying a lot of new stuff. New out of the box. I'm buying a lot of used stuff. So I'm having all my mental notes about what I want, and I try to really dig into that. And I have to go back into the different experience I had with different devices. But some of these I never used. I never used an Electron device. I never used a Teenage Engineering outside of the pocket operators. I'm looking at a lot of these videos, and I'm not talking about the features because most of the features we know about. You can put them on a list and say, okay, it does this, does that. But maybe some features are really important for me, make or break kind of deal. But others are basically just understanding the workflow. So I'm watching a lot of videos of users explaining how they make a song or how they make a beat, or how they use it to understand the workflow. And sometimes it's just one sentence when they explain that this does this way, go, okay, this is not what I expect. This is not what I want. With all the features it has in it, it still has this way of working that I dislike. So out of my list right away. So it's kind of try to understand the workflow, because in the end, that's what makes me sell back my gear, is that the workflow does not fit with me, and I understand that my workflow will evolve and change. When I started, I had a very simple drum machine and a synthesizer. That was how I started music, and I had a very simple sequencer. I had 3 things, that was it. Today I've got a lot more stuff, but still, I want to keep it very simple, because when I get to create, I don't want to have to dive deep into anything, because this is something I do on my spare time. If I worked full-time making music, then yeah, some of the device that needs to go deeper into them, I would probably be used to them, like learning a sequencer, learning a DAW. That's the same logic. So this is the whole thing of buyer's mindset, reviewer's mindset. I see a lot of reviews where they're not reviews. They're actually visual manual of how to use a device. And a lot of these reviews are made the day before it was released. And when you look at a piece of gear today, often after a year or 2 or 3 years, there's firmware updates, and then there's stuff that it does. Then if you look at the original review, oh, it doesn't do that, does not do that, oh, a glitch here is a glitch there. So you have to look back after a couple of years. So this is kind of my reflection of what I'm looking for when I'm buying, the information I try to understand when I'm buying something. And at the same time, keep that in mind when I do videos for you, so I can explain in a way that it helps you make a decision. So the next videos I'll be working on are from the Drumlogue specifically. This is kind of how I'm going to approach it. A buyer's guide and a user guide being separate. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me of the reflection, of the thought process, if there's anything I'm missing there, or I'm just going along that route for now, and then if it fits my bill, and if you like the type of videos, I'll push more into that direction. That's it for today. I just needed to kind of express me on this because I've been thinking about this, and it's just been spinning in my head on how I should do this for the next videos. That's it. Stay safe, make more music. See you soon. Cheers.